Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. Um, so this is a movie like I knew existed, but I never watched it. Like the only thing I sort of knew kind of about it is there's like a lesbian period drama SNL sketch that like it's parodying different movies, but specifically this one, which now I'm gonna have to watch that again after watching this. Which I haven't really seen like a lot of these kinds of like period dramas and stuff. The one that I really like though, and I prefer over this one, is Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which I could probably honestly watch again. It's been enough like time passed since the last time I've seen it. But I thought like, I should probably watch this one too. I could probably find like a whole list of these like lesbian period dramas and stuff. This was kind of just okay. I'm not really sure like how I feel about it. I feel like it just kind of moved really slow. Like it does take an hour in at least. It's like more of a slow burn, I guess, for the two main characters to kind of like become a couple and stuff. And like I could tell from the beginning too, it's probably going to be really slow. I think it's just that like there isn't really much dialogue, and I needed like a little bit more of a build up between the two main characters. There just kind of wasn't really enough for me. I will say what was kind of interesting with this movie, and I wasn't expecting, is this is like one of the most like sort of ASMR in a sense kind of movies, in that there's like not really any music. A lot of the scenes are silent. It's not like a silent film or anything though. There's like barely any dialogue, and when they do speak, it's like not all the time, but like some of the time kind of a bit like quieter and stuff. And there's just, and because especially there's no music, there's a lot of sounds of just people doing stuff. Not that they're as relaxing as like when you're actually like listening to ASMR and stuff, but it does kind of give that feel just a little bit. So I think for like the plot and the characters, I would probably not watch this movie ever again. But in terms of just, it's kind of chill, and as like a movie I could throw on in the background or something. I could see this being that. Like that's even kind of how I felt when I watched it, because I'll be honest, like I was watching it on Tubi, so I had like, and I'm watching it on Tubi on my computer, so it's like I had one tab, like one window where it's the movie, and then I had another window. I've been doing these drawings of these like what is it called, this collector line for like Monster High of like the fashion dolls, but they're based on horror movie characters. So I was literally sitting like drawing those and looking at one tab, then another tab for the movie, not for like the entire movie that way, because at the points in the movie kind of did pick up a little bit. I did go into like full screen and watch it and stuff, but I was like already from my first viewing of it, I was kind of just using it as like a sort of in the background movie anyway. But it is good for that, I will say. And the thing is, like, I did want to pay attention and want to, like, watch the whole thing. I mean, I did also really want to draw, so no matter what I watched, I probably would have done that. It's just, I could sort of tell, like, okay, this is going to be kind of slow, I feel. And it's like that for me with some movies. If it just feels, like, a bit too slow, where it's, like, not really much is kind of happening, sometimes I will just kind of, like, do some drawing and stuff as I'm watching, just to kind of like keep my hands busy. That's like nothing really against the movie. That I was actually okay with it being kind of slow. The plot's like kind of simple too. There's these two women, one of them is named Mary and one of them is named Charlotte. I'll be honest, I didn't even know that the other woman was named Charlotte, because I had this with subtitles on too, which I do that a lot, because no one really called her by name. They usually referred to her by her last name, and it took like a while into the movie, the subtitle changed, and I'm like, oh, that's what your name is. Charlotte is the wife of this like really rich guy, and Mary lives with her mother, and she goes out onto the beach. She's a scientist, and is like trying to dig up all of these fossils and stuff, also as and of course because she's like passionate about it, but also to make money, you know, she has to provide for herself and her mother. And Charlotte's husband, I don't remember his name, but he's not really like a character that's in this movie much, goes to Mary to like learn from her, and then says, hey, my wife is kind of a bit melancholy and the doctor says that Sierra's good for her, so I'm just gonna like abandon her here with you and you're gonna have to like look after her. I think he did end up paying her, but yeah, he basically just kind of abandoned his wife. And I was thinking, like, dude, you have money, why don't you just like stay there for a while, like with your wife, instead of just like dumping her with a stranger, basically. I didn't really like Charlotte's husband anyway. At first I thought, like, okay, he seems like excited about like working with Mary and stuff. He seems like a nice guy, like willing to work hard and friendly. But then I noticed he keeps speaking for Charlotte. Like, they go to a restaurant and he doesn't let her order anything, or she'll try to say stuff, or like they go to a ball, or not, no, it wasn't a ball, it was like they go to some like social event and the guy's like, no, this is too loud, can we go somewhere quiet, even though Charlotte wants to stay and hang out with people. That always kind of bothers me. Like, basically just does not let his wife have an opinion. And then she's even telling him too, like, hey, I don't want to stay by the seaside, I don't like the water, I don't like to be alone. But he basically just kind of forces her to go. She just doesn't really have a lot of agency, and that's why it's nice when she's with Mary, Charlotte becomes a bit happier. It's actually good for both of them, because Mary's like very introverted and specifically like shuns people away, so it's nice. I like these kind of relationship movies where they like both kind of open up a bit once they're together. I think that's pretty neat. I don't really know what it is that Charlotte has to be on. I like thought it was depression. They say, you know, like these kind of older movies where it's like they have this woman has like melancholy and she's assigned to go to the seaside for fresh air to get better. You know how that was like the prescription for people and stuff. But yeah, I thought she was just depressed. I wasn't sure though, because she, you know, before she ends up staying, you know, by the seaside with Mary and stuff, she like kind of just lays around all day, like in bed. Like, she doesn't want to get out of bed and doesn't really talk and just kind of looks really out of it a lot of the time. And then what kind of bothered me too is the husband telling Charlotte of like, oh, you know, this will be good for you, I just want my funny smart wife back. And it's like, bro, you're abandoning her with this stranger, not exactly helping with your relationship and stuff, and just kind of seems like he's viewing his wife more as like a problem than a person that annoys me. And it's like an inconvenience for Mary. I mean, it is nice she's gonna get paid and stuff, though it sounds like she's not really being paid much, but she has no interest to even if she hypothetically had to take up like an assistant or anything, she just wants to be alone and to do her work. And at first it doesn't sound so bad. I'm like, okay, yeah, this person's gonna like go out to the beach with you and that'll be that. But then it's also that Charlotte's like kind of sickly, she ends up getting sick, and the doctor is like, oh, Mary, you're gonna have to keep an eye on her constantly and like basically nurse her back to health. And it's like, dang, you know, that means Mary can't do her work and she's having to like spend her own money to buy medicine, and already has to worry about her mother, who the mother is also kind of like actually sick. I don't know with what. They have it as, you know, that thing that happens in like old-timey movies. I mean, this isn't an old-timey movie. This is from like 2020, but I mean the time it takes place in like the 1800s or whatever. You know, when someone coughs and blood comes out, and that is a immediate sign in the movie that someone is eventually going to die. Like, you will not survive the movie. That happens with the mother, which we don't really see that much of Mary's mother. We do learn like a little bit about her, of how she, and how this like reflects in like Mary as a character and stuff, that her mother lost a lot of her children when she was young. I feel like the mother kind of tries to cope with that a little bit. If she has these little animal figurines she refers to as her babies, and she's very, very careful with them, and every day she like sets them up on the table. I assume that had to do with her losing a lot of her children when she was younger, and you know why Mary is working so hard and trying to provide for the two of them and stuff. Okay, let me see what else with my notes. I'm like half skipping around and half kind of going off the top of my head. There is nudity in this movie. It's kind of weird to me though, because like you get that really early on in the movie, and I don't get for a movie where the main relationship, you know, is supposed to be these two women, but then the only person you like fully see like just straight up nude is Charlotte's husband. Like he just full on just does not have clothes on for one of the scenes. It's not like a sexual scene, he's just like changing clothes, but it's like dude's ding dong is like right there. But then when you have all the scenes where it's like Mary and Charlotte, you know, like having sex and stuff, you don't see anything. It's like they're like in bed or whatever, or like wearing a dress, and it's covered like just enough. You don't see anything, and I don't think that's fair. And I also think that's like kind of weird. You get to see nudity for like a character that doesn't matter, but then for the two characters that are like actually in a relationship and like engaging in like a sexual act, you don't. They're the ones that are covered. That's like kind of weird to me. And also the times when they're like together romantic, like whenever they're like kissing and stuff, I mean it, or really a lot of their like intimacy scenes just feel really awkward to me. It's like there's like a couple of times when Mary and Charlotte kiss, but especially like the first time they kiss, it's also kind of a little weird. Where at first it seems like it's okay, it's like very soft and stuff, but then it's like they're kissing each other so hard their cheeks look really like pinched. It's like watching two people kiss that don't know how to kiss or something. And it's funny because like I know these two actresses know how to kiss. I've seen them in movies where they kiss people, but it's like when they have to kiss each other, it just looks really weird. And I can't even say for like the characters of like, oh, it's two characters that don't know how to like kiss or whatever, but like because like even though she doesn't love her husband, I'm sure Charlotte's had to like kiss him and stuff, so it feels weird whenever they kiss. There was one time where they kiss, I actually like two times that I thought it did look okay. There's a part I really liked actually when they both go into the water, and they like kiss, and then they're like playing around and stuff. That looked natural. It was actually a really nice shot too, because the sunlight is behind them, like kind of lighting up their heads when they kiss. That was a nice shot. And then at the end of the movie they get to see each other again, or towards the end, and Charlotte runs up to Mary and just kind of quickly gives her a kiss, and like both of those times felt natural. But like any other time, like earlier in the movie when they try to kiss, it just looks really awkward. And then they're like sex scenes and stuff, which are pretty short though. Also feel kind of weird where it's like there isn't any music. I mean, there's no music for a lot of the movie, but in those scenes, it's not just like there isn't any music, but there's no sound from the two people. Like there's like a couple of scenes, some where you don't get to actually see anything, where it's behind a closed door, and you'll hear stuff, you know, like moaning or whatever. But the one where you do get to see them and they're on the bed and stuff, there's no noise from the two actresses, there's no music, there's no anything, so it just looks really awkward. It's like kind of awkward to watch. For a movie that I knew going into it of like, yeah, they're gonna have like a romance and stuff, all of the romance parts felt really weird. And it's not like and were just kind of disappointing, I should say. And it's not like the rest of the movie is like kind of better, I guess. A lot of it is like they don't really talk, they're just kind of doing stuff. And I watch movies like that sometimes, and I can be fine with that when there's not really much dialogue. But there's also just sometimes not really much happening either. So I'll be honest, it got like a little boring occasionally. There's a part when they have to share a bed. It's like before they start getting kind of romantically engaged and stuff. I did like that the sharing the bed scene wasn't sexual. It was just kind of for warmth. It was that Mary had given up her bed for Charlotte to sleep in, because you know they don't have multiple beds and stuff, and well, they probably do for like the mother and stuff, and Charlotte's like, you can't keep sleeping on that chair, get in here. And they look so cozy in their like nightgowns and stuff in the bed. That was pretty nice. Let me see. Mary's kind of a character. I think I find her kind of more interesting than Charlotte, to be honest. Where she's kind of just a bit rude to everyone, and she just kind of wants to be left alone with her work, but she also just seems very kind of withdrawn as a person. But there's a scene I really like where there's this doctor character. He shows up occasionally because Charlotte's kind of sick, and he invites Mary. And the thing is, Mary and Charlotte are like both sitting there in the room. It's not like Charlotte's somewhere else or something. And he tells Mary like, hey, as a reward for all your hard work, I want to invite you to the music recital. And Mary actually stands up for Charlotte and saying like, oh, hey, do you have another ticket? Naturally, you know, this other person's going to be coming along. Does she like not get an invitation? Did you not even think about that? And the doctor kind of makes up an excuse or whatever, like, oh, you know, I just wasn't going to invite her because as her doctor, I think she'd be too overstimulated to go to this event. And Mary's basically just like, yeah, bullshit. No, she's coming too. I'm not going to go unless she goes. And I thought that was nice to kind of show they're kind of getting along a bit more, and they go to the event. They don't have a fun time there, though. It was kind of funny to me that Mary gets so annoyed by these like two women that are talking at the event, and no one else is like like, it is rude, that would annoy me, but like no one else in the audience is like bothered or anything. Like Mary gets so annoyed by it that she just straight up gets up and leaves. She would rather just walk home in the rain. And the thing is, she doesn't even tell Charlotte that she went to the event with anyway. Of like, hey, I'm gonna go, this is too much for me or whatever. Because the thing is, it does make a disruptance. Like, the people look out as like Mary's leaving and stuff, but she just ditches Charlotte, and Charlotte ends up having to walk home alone in the rain, and is like, hey, you left me behind, what the heck, you know. Let me see. A lot of the weather in this, it's like very like gloomy and cloudy. I did notice, I thought it was interesting that like once the two characters finally get together, it actually gets sunny. Like it like feels like night and day basically when they go back out to the beach, and it leads to the point where they end up going in the water together and stuff. But it's actually like the sun is out, you know. It just feels completely different. Let me see what else. Oh, okay. I found my notes when I was talking about like the sex scenes and stuff. I forgot to mention you do see like boobs and stuff, but that's about it. And then the movie kind of slows down a bit where Charlotte ends up having to leave, and then immediately afterwards Mary's mom dies, and then Charlotte invites Mary to go to this museum to see this fossil she donated, but it's really just so that she could have Mary move into her house and stuff, because the thing is, like, Charlotte doesn't even really love her husband anyway. I also don't think like she could leave him. She probably doesn't really have anything to like support herself and stuff, but She wants Mary to move in and like prepares a room for her. It's really cute. And then Mary doesn't want to move in. I sort of get it from like both sides though. It's like the one time they have like an argument and stuff where Mary, she likes her life and her work and would feel really trapped as like kind of forcibly being a part of like Charlotte's life and stuff. But it's also that like Charlotte, doesn't want to be alone again and how her life used to be, and she liked having Mary around and stuff. I mean, even if she like could leave her husband and stuff, I feel like, Charlotte seemed like you get to see what her life is like when Mary goes to visit, and it's like very fancy and stuff. But Charlotte kind of doesn't seem like she really cares about any of that, and she seemed happy even just with Mary. So I feel like even if she could leave her, I feel like the only way they probably could have ended up together is like if Charlotte, moved in with Mary and they just like lived together or something. Because like I could tell as soon as Charlotte tries to invite Mary to move in, I'm like, yeah, she's like too attached to her old life and does not have the personality which she would just like move in or anything. I do like how they kind of almost foreshadow it a bit, and it comes up in their conversation where the scene right before they end up seeing each other again is Mary kind of looking around in Charlotte's house and looking at all of these like fancy objects in a glass case, and then kind of refers to herself that way in their conversation. But I feel like that's probably the only way they could like would be able to have like a life together and stuff, if just the two of them like personality wise and stuff, if like Charlotte decided to move in with Mary. But it just would not work the other way around, and it doesn't. And it kind of ends in a way where Mary goes to the museum and sees the piece that she had to sell, the fossil she found, and then Charlotte, I don't know why I keep getting them mixed up. I keep wanting to call Charlotte Mary. No, Charlotte appears and she's on the other side of the glass. It's like a little glass container thing, and then it ends where they're both kind of looking at each other through it, and that's about it. It's kind of funny because like I was kind of thinking of Portrait of a Lady on Fire as I was watching this, and that one also ends in a scene where one of the characters ends up at a museum and they're looking at an important like work or something important in the plot. Dang, now I do kind of want to watch that again because I feel like I kind of preferred that. There's just a bit more to it to me compared to this movie. Not that this one was bad or anything, and I don't like completely mind its slow pace. I just feel like there just wasn't enough for me, really. I don't really know how to explain it, but I still think it was okay. I'm still glad I watched it. I like both of these actresses anyway. I just haven't seen either of them in like anything for a while. It kind of took me a while to even recognize that was Kate Winslet, and then I was kind of and then like a while into the movie I'm like, oh wait, yeah, that's her. It's like I couldn't tell who that was. But yeah, again, I think because I haven't seen her in a movie since like the 90s or early 2000s or so. But yeah, it's pretty much my thoughts on it.